watching these birds, is all they are, flying in space, this is what they saw at Rick Laboratories. Now what you don't see here are a bunch of birds spreading outward to fill all space, like gas would behave as. But they're coming together cohesively as an intelligent, single-minded collective mass. You don't also see them colliding into each other and falling out of the sky because they're running into each other. This is an intelligent mass of birds, okay, just like the particles they found at Rick. Pretty cool. All right, anyway, I think there's like 300,000, it said, 300,000 birds right there, starlings is what they're called. Anyway, all right, let's close that. Everybody get the picture? This is what water looks like as sound is moved through water. What you're going to see is you don't see the bubble or the bubble of water. You don't see it shattering apart. What you see is this cohesive movement, just like they described at Rick. So you got water molecules here, big lump, as a water droplet, I should say. And as water is moved through, or sonic impulse is moved through this bubble, it acts in a cohesion. It acts together as one. It doesn't split apart. This is a German scientist who's conducted this, by the way. Very simple experiment. You can probably do it at home if you try to reproduce it. Now, I forget what these little things are called. We use them in chemistry, but I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head. But what you can kind of see here is that as sonic waves are sent through this bubble of water, you can kind of see them orbiting, if you will. Now, this is a very crude experiment. Obviously, if you were a supreme intelligent creator or whatever, or infinite intelligence, you'd be able to do something that would create stable waters and stable paths. This is a very crude experiment. Pretty interesting. Interesting stuff. This is the same experimenter, and this is one of the images that he took, one of the photographs, as he moved water, sound waves through a sonic impulse through water. And as you can see, it kind of looks like a galaxy, a spiral galaxy, as a matter of fact. Pretty interesting. What you see around the outside here is basically what we describe as a cosmic microwave background, and I'll get to that in just a second. But around this outside image, as the sonic impulse is sent through the water, it creates a galactic image as well as a cosmic microwave background that surrounds the whole thing. Pretty interesting stuff. Especially since now we know, and I talk about this in the book, that the universe is literally filled with ice vapor. The whole universe is filled. There is no empty space in outer space. There is comparatively empty space compared to regions of very dense locations of matter, but there is no empty space. All right? As light travels through the universe, it's traveling through gas mediums at different temperatures and ice fields, ice vapor. Okay. Now, what we see here is a map of the entire physical universe that we've collected so far. This image, then, looks very similar to what they found at Rick. You don't see massive globs of material that are not connected together. What you see are these filaments between each of these superclusters, just like between the very smallest particles at Rick. There are filaments that connect the mass together. So from the very smallest particles to the very largest particles, we see Hawking's dream come true. A description of matter from the smallest to the very largest. From the beginning of the universe to the universe as we see it today. Just as they said, Rick scientists said this was an intelligent, quote-unquote, mass of quarks and gluons. Then also, at the very largest observations of the universe, this must be a quote-unquote intelligent mass and formation of matter also. So, we discussed the void. There is evidence of the void. We've discussed water, what the water is, that there is evidence, and that it connects science from the very smallest to the very largest. Next, we have to discuss the acoustic wave that God spoke and how it affects light in this water medium of the universe as it began as the universe. Now, sonoluminescence means literally light from sound. Now, to produce this light in this experiment, you need, number one, a fluid medium. It can be water, it can be, in this experiment, it was sulfuric acid and argon gas, which bubbled up. And you need some kind of gas, and you need a sonic influence. Now, as the quote says, somehow the energy dispersed in an acoustic wave field, or spoken word, that Genesis describes as God spoke matter in existence. Somehow the energy dispersed in an acoustic wave field becomes sufficiently concentrated to produce visible light. Well, that's what the sun is. That's what all the stars are. That's what electrons are. That's what photons are. From the very smallest to the very largest, somehow an acoustic wave field becomes sufficiently concentrated to produce visible light. Just to read this Bible real quick, I'm going to read in Genesis chapter 1 real quick. Just go over what we just read. It says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and it is described as waters, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So it had to have something to effervesce or to vibrate the water field. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. So somehow God spoke into this. The wave field that he created by his voice became sufficiently concentrated to produce visible light. So science is perplexed at these experiments of sonoluminescence because before this experiment they never knew where light or photons or energy came from. They just were. They were, according to science, the Big Bang did it in the beginning, but they never knew how. Well, now we see how light was created. It was created from acoustic waves. So where did those acoustic waves come from? Well, did they come from the Big Bang, or did they come from the spoken word? Everything is made of light, and where does light come from? Science describes light as being waves and particles. But this doesn't address why light exists, where it came from, or how it came into existence in the model of Big Bang cosmology. But the sonoluminescence experiments tell us that light comes from sound. Light proceeded from sound, and it's the bridge between the void and matter, because all matter comes from light. In this picture we see single bubble sonoluminescence, but there are experiments that use multi-bubble sonoluminescence where you have many of these bubbles illuminated by sonic waves in a water field or a liquid fluid field. So now we see the bridge from gluons and quarks, or from nothingness, to the very largest bodies of matter in the whole universe. And that bridge is sonoluminescence. So we've literally reproduced Genesis in experimental laboratories.